But first, let's return to that cohort of Islamic State women and their children. Yes, at least one of these women is now subject to temporary exclusion orders, but significant questions remain around whether they may be free to enter Australia in the future and the nature of the concern that's been expressed by our intelligence agencies. Syrian sisters Orshina and Kanoun are part of the Abbott government's humanitarian intake of persecuted minorities from Syria in 2016. A cohort, in this case, of Syrian Christians given safe haven in this country after decades of persecution based on their religion in the Middle East. Aged just 11, they lived through the impact of ISIS terrorism in their community before fleeing to Lebanon and then finding a permanent home in Australia. I'm pleased to say Orshina Kanoun joins me now from Melbourne. Orshina, I'm really thrilled to have you on the program. I know you're not a media performer, but I think it's just so important that we hear from someone with a lived experience of life in and around Islamic State. I want you to give my viewers an understanding of what you and your family lived through prior to escaping to Australia.
Thank you so much, Peter. As you know, I was a child when ISIS had broken to Syria. I was about 8 years of age when they actually broke into Syria. So many brutality and different sorts of horrific scenes I've seen as a child. There was attempts of kidnappings that happened. There was attempts of mass shootings that I myself have also encountered. There was all sorts of kind of brutalities that you could also think of. But my parents faced hardships to take a decision to leave our country. However, this was not until, well, I call a turning point for their decision. That was when a bomb exploded into my friend's house. It was me and my sister at her house. We were celebrating the end of the school year. However, I just went into a nightmare, what I call, and then I woke up here in Australia and I found myself here. And yeah, very grateful.
I'll get to you making the most of your... Well, I know you, and you've made the most of your opportunities here. I want to get to that in a moment. But I guess the point is you are Christians in the Middle East, and we have seen tragically in recent months just some of the trauma suffered by Christians. Nigeria is a good example, but there are plenty others. You were persecuted by Islamic State just because you were not adherents to the Muslim faith. That's correct, isn't it? That you were Christian.
That's correct. As a Christian, yeah.
So when you arrived in Australia, I want to make it clear to my viewers, you spoke no English, but both you and your sister ended up school captains. You've gone on to university and you're now working and contributing back to Australia. How important has it been that you have settled in this country and this is now home?
I'd first like to start by obviously thanking the Tony Abbott government, because that was the time when my family and I and many other communities and community members made it to Australia through the humanitarian program. But I'd also like to extend my thanks to you, Peter, especially because you were in a chief staff at the time. I'd like to start by talking about the different contributions and engagements the Christian community and the members of community that actually made it to Australia during that time. I reckon there's like 0 rates of unemployment amongst those that were brought under the Tony Abbott government. But it also shows that we have love for this country. Like I can tell you that there's so many members from those communities that were brought here in 2015 and 16. Now they own businesses. Some of them are high school students. Some of them are university students like myself. Yeah, they've made a lot of contributions to the country, and they still will continue to make more contributions. So I think it's about having the love for this country and being able to assimilate with this beautiful country's values, but also it's another message that...
We are lucky to have you.
Thank you. It's also a message...
We want more people to come here and stay here that love our country. Just quickly, if you could talk to the Prime Minister, if your family could talk to the Prime Minister, if he said to you, should we take these women back to Australia, given they left to fight for Islamic State, given they have bred children with Islamic State terrorists, the cubs of the caliphate they called them, what would you tell the Prime Minister?
Look, as someone who's actually encountered ISIS, I personally think it's just very hard to accept, first of all, living among those who have travelled to these ISIS-controlled areas known for mass killings, rape, torture and genocide, and be involved in all sorts of atrocities. But also, my personal opinion is that it's very hard, no matter how many counselling services or rehabilitation services are provided, it's just very, very hard and difficult to erase all those ideologies that are embedded upon them for years and years. So it's very concerning to hear that there's, other than the two ISIS brides that were brought here 2 months ago, that there's 34 ISIS brides that the government is thinking of bringing into Australia. It's just concerning to think about it, and it's not something that should be forced upon us.
Not at all, Orshina. I think you speak for all Australians with comments like that. And I am conscious that it brings a lot of trauma to communities like yours when these people come back to Australia, should they come back to Australia. Orshina, you are an incredibly brave woman and you are a magnificent Australian. I'm thrilled that you're on my show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.